Hi, welcome back to another episode of Help Hub. In this video, we are going to talk all things Suppliers Hub. Now, Suppliers Hub has lots of modules and tools which I've developed over the last kind of 6 months. It first started developing because I was forever forgetting to send purchase orders to freelancers and suppliers. So I wanted a visual cue on Current, which just constantly gave me a visual prompt that there were suppliers on the job and they needed a purchase order. So that's how it started, and then it's progressed to where it is now. So I'm Dan, and I'm going to talk you through it. Okay, so let's jump straight into Suppliers Hub. So there are a few settings with Supplier Hub. So the first thing is you need to make sure it's on. So go into settings and then scroll down. It is on by default. And then we have some options here. So we can set manual purchase orders. So if you don't use a purchase order system within Current, you can set it manually. And then some people don't actually use the purchase orders at all. So I had a request just to remove the prefix, so then it doesn't confuse any of the users using it. And then we also have show subrent badge. So underneath each item, if the item is subrented, you will get a little bubble to say who it's from, who it's been subrented from. If you don't want to see that, then you can just switch that off. So we're not going to save that. Right, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to add a supplier. So normally you'd have to go edit into the supplier and then add allocation, select the subrent booking, and then put a supplier in. But I've simplified that. So all we need to do is click the arrow here, click add supplier. I'm going to select all in one party rentals. Now we do have some options here. We've got include accessories and we've got include nested accessories at all levels. And we've also got the quantity. So this does catch me out a couple of times. So I know I need to hire in two. So we just need to make sure we select two here. Hit save. That'll do some magic in the background. That's going to now mark all of the items as subrented and all the accessories. That's then going to come out of there. And then you'll know it's been subrented because you've got a bracket around the number of items being subrented. Now, if we hover over this now, we'll get another pop-up and it will give you a quick indication of the sub-hire breakdown. And we can actually adjust this. So maybe I accidentally subrented 2 and I only wanted 1. So we can quickly press that, hit save, and then that will go away and redo that item. It won't do the accessories. You'd have to do those one by one. I'm just going to put that back. Oh, so here's another one as well. So now I've done that, then there's actually a breakdown to say I've got no supplier 1, and then 1 is subrented by all in one party rentals. You can as well adjust the overall quantity of the item. So maybe we want to increase that to 4, keep that as 1 and that as 1. Click that. There we go. So that's now changed the quantity to 4. So I'm going to put that back. So I'm going to knock that back down to 2 and then knock that to 0 and then increase that to 1. There we go. So that's now 2 items and 2 items subrented. So if I refresh this page, what's going to happen now is I'm going to get this little bubble underneath here to say mark as subrented all in one party rental. So we know that's the supplier. And then on the right hand side as well here, I'm going to get this Suppliers Hub section, and then I'm going to get a list of suppliers within the opportunity, and it's going to give me their purchase order status. So at the moment we don't have a purchase order. What we can do here is click the supplier, and that will give you a list of all the items subrented from this supplier. Now, some people I know like to mark stuff as subrented and then use that as a request to send to the supplier. So you can do that. So we can select all the items here, and then we can hit email, and then that will actually generate an email with all the accessories and then the dates pulled from the opportunity. So we'll come out of that. We could also copy the items as well if we wanted to into another document. So this is what I was saying about now having a visual cue. So every time I come to the job, I can see my suppliers and I can see that they don't have a purchase order. And I can also see which items are subrented. I know Current does put this little box here, but on a big job, sometimes you do miss it. So it's quite a useful thing to have. So what we can do now is we've got a technician here as well, which is unassigned. This is part of Hotel Hub, which we will talk about another time. So what we can do is we'll just do this normally. So I'm just going to select Finley as my technician. And now what's happened is we see Finley and all in One Party Rentals as our suppliers. So when it comes to the time, we want to send some purchase orders to these guys. So quickest way of doing it is I can click no PO for that item, and then what's going to happen, it's going to jump to the costings page, and then it's going to highlight all the items which are linked to that supplier. And then we can then simply create the purchase order. And then I'm going to print the purchase order. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the discussion. And I'm just going to, there's nothing set up on here. So I'm just going to just put it as test. And then, yeah, we've got a test email there, and I'm going to send that. Right, so what's happened now is Hub has detected that you've sent the purchase order and the PO is not marked as sent. So this was another thing I was forever forgetting. So what we can do here, we can either ignore it or I can click mark as sent. If I give this a page refresh, that's now saying it's sent. Green means sent, basically. Now what we can do as well is just to prove that. So we're going to do Finley's purchase order. So we're going to create the purchase order. There we go. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm not going to send it via the discussions. So if I refresh, that will now say PO number, but it's actually going to be orange. And orange means the purchase order is created, but it hasn't been sent. And we might be using, we use Team Track, so we send the purchase orders via Team Track. So I would then go back into this job, and then we can just simply right click and then hit sent. So another feature as well is, for example, Finley might be an internal member of staff. So when you allocate him, you don't want him to show here in the suppliers hub. So to get around that, what we would do is, I'm just going to copy his name and then go back to the settings again. You'll see supplier exclusion list. So if we add Finley into here and then hit save, what's going to happen is his name's just going to cache into the memory. So then we refresh again. Now Finley is not in the list. So that is for suppliers or mainly staff who are internal rather than external, and they wouldn't normally have a purchase order. And that's it for Suppliers Hub. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.